2022. So, and it's like we're just getting this figure and we're really not doing much about them. So what we are saying is that as we push, one of those remarks that I would like to make is that, yes, there are successes to celebrate. There were achievements. There are achievements that we have made. Some of us gone into low-income housing. I would tell we appreciate the effort of Asamodia. These are models that have worked. How can we upscale them? How can we improve on them? So those are the things I want us to look at. So we are saying that we must, as a matter of urgency, begin to prioritize policies, programs, and direct action towards bridging the identified gaps of access and recognition for the most vulnerable citizens, including people with disabilities, after-school children, internally disabled, and as well as women and youth. We must begin to focus on this category of people. These are people that will not, no matter the rate of mortgage, they can never afford it. They can never afford it. And they are on the majority. We begin to characterize development beyond the primary city by promoting regional development, planning and intervention, and ensuring physical development and economic planning to take into consideration the spectrum of women and settlement from large cities to small towns and villages. Because most of the time, our solutions were always the primary city focus, Lagos, Ibadan. And we have it on record. There is less than 50% of Nigerians that are living in these cities. So we must begin to look at regional and national aspect of whatever solution we are providing, because Nigerians are also in this settlement. Strengthen regulatory and legislative framework that protect the social and economic rights of all citizens, establishing clear guidelines and implementing programs for housing, urban regeneration, and propel development across the cities and human settlements, ensuring corruption, nepotism, and cronyism, while promoting the human rights approach to development, which is more equitable and democratic as we celebrate our 60th anniversary, promoting economic development opportunities for youth and women who face the highest brunt in the urban penalty, providing for effective feedback mechanism while encouraging active citizenship, investing in research and development necessary for catalyzing cities as a place of innovation and prosperity. There must be emphasis on housing education. There must be emphasis, because if the policymakers, if they lack housing education, if they lack the knowledge, there is no way they will support whatever policy we are coming up with. I believe that, let me just stop there as my opening presentation. Thank you very much, Barrister Adebayo.
Thank you, Prof. Yes, we know you as Prof, and we appreciate that. You have done a good professional job now. Thank you so much. I'll be coming back to you. And when I come back to you, you'll be telling me what we are going to do with those seeking for our votes to become president, to become governor, to become chairman of local government. I'll be coming back. Now, I'll be going to my distinguished vice chairman of Africa International Housing Show Board, Mr. Akeem Ogunniran. This time, I will not want it to be too long so that we can go within the time. Thank you, my vice chairman.
That's the problem. When you call me after a professor, when you ask me to speak after a distinguished professor, that's the kind of challenge that you face. Well, I want everybody to wish us a happy independence, and I'm very happy to be here. I share the sentiments of all those who have spoken. This being an introductory remark, I'm just going to say one or two things. First thing is that I think there's always a tendency to look at the hardcore measurement parameters of housing success. If you look at home ownership penetration, if you look at housing deficit, you look at general environment, I think you'll easily say that probably we haven't done well, but I'm always an apostle of looking at the incremental successes that we have made over the years, and then look at the areas that we need to focus our attention going forward. So I think that even though home ownership penetration is just like 25%, housing deficit is in millions. I don't want to mention figures this morning, so I don't start any controversy, But I think we've made significant progress in this housing journey, And I'd like to first of all underscore the point made by Femi and General Rees in terms of the awareness about the importance of housing. I think one of the things that our advocacy has managed to do is to push housing to the center of discourse, both at the federal and state government levels. And you will have seen that even with the ongoing campaigns, quite a number of the candidates have also tried to ensure that housing is a key element of what they are trying to put forward. I think that is a significant progress that we have made, recognizing that housing is not just something that can be pushed under the table. It's not a subsidiary issue. It's supposed to be a front-burning developmental issue, which our government must pay attention to. So I think that that's a major plus for us in the industry. I think we've made significant progress in terms of housing delivery itself. Because what we must understand is that quite a number of the players in this industry have recognized that in spite of regulatory challenges, they still have to create a framework for themselves to deliver. So even though we always joke that every developer, for example, is a local government on its own, you'll see that if you look at the trajectory of development over the past 5-10 years, developers have made significant progresses, even in terms of, in spite of the challenges that we face in that industry. I've seen significant, there are two areas that I just thought I want to really mention that we have seen exceptional progress. One is in terms of technology adoption. I think there's a general realization now that technology is going to be a key driver of housing development. And so if you look at the whole housing ecosystem, you look at what the young men have done in trying to transmute the sector into housing as a service, you cannot just but doff your heart for what has happened in terms of technology, both at the development end and at the management end of real estate and housing in this country. I'm not sure there are many countries who have made more progress, and I'm happy to be to play in that space at the global level, and I can confirm that the kind of progress that we have made in this respect, is quite significant. Housing finance is another area that we have made significant progress. Today, we have sophisticated asset classes in the market. In fact, as I speak to you, there are like 4 major products coming into the market, and 2 of them are based on tokenized and unitized assets. One is going to be launched very soon. Of course, we can't be talking of that 5, 10, 15 years ago. But we've created a framework. We've created a few asset classes. We've seen that we need to take housing and real estate, to the capital market where you have access to a wider pool of investors rather than all what we have been doing, And I think that is a significant progress that we've made. And overall, if you look at all the innovations around housing finance, joint ventures, all forms of alliances that we see in the market today, I think it's because people have sat down and they've seen that whatever happens, we have to be able to drive this industry forward only, you know. So I think that overall, I think we've made progress. I mean, clearly there are areas that we need to pay attention to, you know. I think that for me, and as I close, I'd like to mention that one of the areas which I think that we should also discuss, so let's just try to set agenda, is that how do we streamline policies, laws, and regulations? Now we have a lot of disparate initiatives, you know. So in the past few days or weeks, we've seen what has happened with RSA and pension, you know. Unfortunately, I'm not as optimistic as a lot of people that have commented on this, you know, because I think this policy has come at the very wrong time, you know, because if you want to stimulate the housing ecosystem, you also have to look at policies that will drive demand and supply at the same time, you know. We have done this at the time when aggregate cost of construction has gone up by almost 60–70% in the past 3 years, you know. So we are stimulating demand. Where is the supply going to come from, you know? So those are I think we need to begin to be a lot more deliberate and intentional in aligning our policies, our rules and regulations, and generally not just work sometimes at cross purposes, which I think has been the bane of this sector in Nigeria. So I'm just going to stop here, and then when I have the opportunity again, I will express my opinion in the course of this event. Thank you very much again for inviting me. Thank you.
I must recognize you as one of our heroes of housing development in Nigeria House 62. You are participated as a private sector, and you have done well. We appreciated what you have just told us about the development in the sector. At this point, I'll be going to Mr. Femi Oyedele. Mr. Oyedele, I want you to tell us, private sector versus government participation or government sector. How will you assess the performance is at 62? Also, our laws and policies. We don't mind if it can be part of your introductory remark.
Good morning, everybody. I wish you all happy Independence anniversary. And let me also start by congratulating. Are you hearing, sir? Are you hearing me?
We can hear you very well.
Okay.
We can hear you
Yes.
on social media. Everyone is hearing you.
Okay. Let me also congratulate my namesake, Architect Henry Femi Adewole of the Family Homes Fund. Congratulations, as today is your birthday. I wish you many happy returns. Before I can assess our housing situation, I think I should set a standard, and the standard will be based on the already provided what I will call factors. One will be that housing is a human right, which Nigeria is a signatory to. Nigeria did not only sign that charter in 1948, Article 25. Nigeria also ratified it. That is one. Two, I want to say that housing is a dignifier, as we all know. If not, the colonial masters will not, first of all, the first institution set up in 1928 by the colonial master was the Lagos Executive Development Board. That shows that housing is a dignifier. And in the ordinance, it stated that Lagos State is a planned city. That's the ambition. That's the second factor that I'll be using in assessing the housing situation in Nigeria. The third will be that without housing, there cannot be sustainable development. That is, only housing can ensure economic, social, and environmental development of any nation. That's the third factor. And then, if we look at all these three factors, we can say that we have not really performed. We are lacking behind in terms of the fact that housing is a human right. Professor Nubi just told us that we have about 240 slums in Lagos alone. 240. I'm just wondering how many communities, if 240 communities can be described as slum in Lagos, then how many communities do we have? It means that we have more slums in Lagos than what I will call standard communities for human beings, standard estates. So in this ramification, we can say that we have not really done well after 62 years of independence. But if you look at it in the other way, with the institutions that government has provided, like the Federal Housing Authority, the laws, Land Use Act of 1978, the Employers Housing Scheme of 1979, and so on, the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, and then in 1992, I think we have the Microfinance Act. So if you look at all these institutions, we can say that we have really tried, but we are not going to be relying on our attempts. We want to see the achievements, and what we are trying to, what we must do is that we must ensure that we belong to League of Nations in terms of housing. We have the necessary resources that can put us into an enviable position in our housing industry. But unfortunately, there are some factors which I will not mention now. In my closing remark, I will be discussing about those factors that is really plaguing our housing achievement. You know, human beings generally, we have 5 negative traits. The first one is that we are oppressive. That is first negative trait of human being. The second one is that we are greedy. If you allow human being to operate on his own, he will show that trait of greediness. That's why we have multitoriality in housing. It's only human being that is exhibiting that trait out of all the different kinds of animals. You see some human beings that will be keeping 5 homes. I mean homes, not investment properties. 5 homes. That is, they are keeping the keys of their home in Abuja, in Owerri, in Lagos, in London, and in Philadelphia. So just one human being keeping 5 homes to himself. We need to strengthen our laws against these practices that are inhibiting housing as a human right to all. So on this note, I want to say that we have a lot of things to do if we really want to show that housing is a human right in Nigeria. All over the world now, nations are seeing housing as a political statement. That's why we have a city like Canberra, a city like London, a city like Washington, D.C., city like Chicago, city like Cape Town, Joburg, and so on, including Abuja. When you go to Abuja, I'm always happy that we have Abuja in Nigeria. The government is really trying, and it's one of the cities in the world that we can say, yes, government is trying to upgrade the standard of living of human beings. But when you consider cities like Ibadan, Lagos, Kano, you see that we still have a lot of things to do. What I will advise is that we should, first of all, try to see, because different cities with different demands, we need to first of all identify what are the demands of different cities in Nigeria through housing need assessments. When you go to Abuja or Lagos, you see a lot of houses that are vacant. Should this be so? In the midst of scarcity, why should we be having vacant houses? Why should accommodation be wasted when we are saying that have a housing deficit and there are some houses that are left vacant. There are
Your
also
phone.
abandoned
Your
properties.
Your phone is ringing.
Yes, I will put it up. You are okay.
Lagos platform?
Yes. Yes. There's also a lot of abandoned properties by the federal government, the state government, and local government that we can put into use either as a social housing or as a low income housing facility. There are lots we can do, Mr. Adebayo. And I think in my second discussion, I'll be discussing more. Thank you.
Thank you, my brother, Femi Oyedele. Oyedele, since I discovered you, you have been satisfying me with necessary information. Every time I call you, you respond. We must acknowledge you publicly that you are a strong advocate of affordable housing in Nigeria, and we continue to partner you. We want to say a very big thank you to you for your.
Thank you, Mr. Adebayo. Thank you. You are welcome, Mr. Adebayo.
Yeah, at this point, I'm going to Family Home Fund. I want to go to Family Home Fund. I want to go to Family Home Fund. From there, I'll go to Gambia. From there, I'll go to Gambia. I'll be going to meet Mr. Mustafa Jay. But now, I'm on my way to Family Home Fund. I didn't know today is the birthday for the man at the head of the affairs. I forgot. I've been working. How can I forget the birthday of my own brother from another mommy? Oh no! I should be punished for this. But we sort that one out after this program. Mr. Femi Adewale, you are one of the heroes of housing development in Nigeria at 62. Your company, your organization is one of the best products, best initiative that has emerged in the course of the 62 years done. Please tell me what is happening in Family Home Fund. Tell me what you are doing. Somebody told me you have some houses that still need to be sold. Tell me what you have done. I need to have some facts and figures from you at this very important moment. I'm being connected by a lot of people are joining me, and they would like to hear facts on Family Home Fund. Great thing you have done. Please tell us.
Thank you, Mr. Adebayo. I'm not sure that I'm very comfortable with the big encomiums. I certainly don't consider myself a hero, and certainly don't consider that Family Home Fund has achieved any measure of greatness. The fund is probably in its second full year of operations. So it's a young organization, it's a learning organization. But we are quite pleased that we are on a trajectory that we established, which is building a Nigerian real estate institution that is based on some very sound and strong values and foundations. And that includes one, ensuring that it's an institution that is financially sustainable, has a financial structure that can see it survive and go forward in the long term, not just in a short time. Secondly, that it is profitable. And thirdly, there's an organization that achieves significant impact in what it does. And all of that are based on a set of values. The first one being innovation, and I'll talk a little bit more about what we have done or will continue to do on that platform. Integrity, partnerships, and getting the best people that we can do. So that's basically the journey that we're on. Is very early days, but we're thankful for the very initial successes to date. And again, I reiterate, 2 full years of operation. The fund by the end of 2022 will have invested in excess of 125 billion naira into housing delivery in Nigeria, by far the largest single investment into the supply side of the housing sector. That will account for just under 20,000 homes. So I think that's in terms of metrics. Alongside that, one of our key objectives is not just to build homes, but to create jobs. So we keep a very strong matrix in terms of jobs, direct jobs that are created on projects that the fund finances. And I think as at the end of Q3, we had done about 82 or 84,000 jobs across the 11 states where we are currently quite active. Now, in terms of very specific details, you probably know that the fund is actually a school of funds, 3 of which are currently operational. The first is the Affordable Housing Fund, which is designed to provide short to medium-term financing for private and public sector developers. The second is a Help to Own Fund, which is designed to contribute to the efforts that our partners in the Federal Mortgage Bank, NMLC, are making to ensure that Nigerians have access to a home finance product. And the third is a Rental Housing Fund. So in terms of talking about what we're doing and the facts behind them, I will bucket them into those 3 separate funds that the fund works with. So in terms of the Affordable Housing Fund, very interesting and a major part of our business. When we started at inception, the fund adopted an approach of direct development. And that involved an initial development of about 3,367 homes in 5 locations across the country. That is Kaduna, Kano, Nasarawa in partnership with Sam Odia, Ogun State, and Asaba in Delta State. So about 367 homes. Almost all of those are now completed, with the exception of the project in Ogun State. You alluded to the issue of the sales and occupation of those homes, and particularly some reports in the media. Now, let me clarify that. There was an audit, and again, as part of our transparency, the fund subjects itself to a wide range of audits in 2020. And as at 2020 December, only about 1,000 of those homes had been sold. Of course, we are now in September 2022. I think when I last looked, which was about 3 or so weeks ago, about 78–79% of those homes have now been sold. But it's critical because one of the key things about the fund is that we want to be a learning organization. And the initial projects provided us with a major opportunity to shape and to craft our strategy. And I think one of the speakers earlier said about empty homes. We quickly found that it wasn't just enough to build houses, and Nigerians needed to have access to financing to buy the homes. We found that even for people on low income, and the project, for example, in Nasarawa State, cost as low as 3 million naira for a 1-bedroom unit. But yet, some of our low-income civil servants, we're talking about civil servants even at level 8, could not afford to buy these homes. These are the realistic challenges that the housing market in Nigeria has to grapple with. So what has been the fund's own reaction to that? And I think this is important because what we have sought to build in the fund is that this market is imperfect. And really, we don't go about complaining about the imperfection of the market. Is really innovating and finding solutions to the problems that exist in the market. So what have we done? We developed the Help to Own product, which is basically an equity loan to people on low income. We give them an interest-free loan for up to 5 years to pay for 40% of the cost of the house. That immediately brings the pricing of the house into a position where most of those people who could not afford them can afford them. And that product is now being validated by significant support, $6 million worth of concessionary financing from the African Development Bank, its largest investment in housing in its history. The second thing we have done is to say, look, for people on low income, it's likely that, in fact, it's certain that many of them, regardless of what you do, and Professor Nubi mentioned that, they can't afford a mortgage. So we established a rental housing fund that says, look, we would put these properties out for rental, and therefore you can pay a rental, but retain an option to buy. So in the Nasarawa scheme, there are at least 120 staff of a major federal agency who are there paying rents. And that approach has enabled us to ensure that a proportion of our home are occupied. Now, the second thing to address the demand issue was that taught us a lesson that we needed to be clear about what the role of the fund is. And the lessons out of that was we shouldn't be building. 2, we shouldn't be selling houses. And therefore, the business model changed in 2020 to primarily providing financing for public and private sector developers. So we now have significant financial exposures through loans and equity in about 11 states across the Federation and growing almost on a weekly basis. That is what is adding up to the just under 22,000 homes that the fund is supporting. And that is on the construction finance window. But as I said, and I won't spend a lot of time on that, we're now working with 4 mortgage banks and 2 commercial banks to promote a Help to Own fund, which gives people on low income a significantly discounted finance to buy their own houses. I should state that this fund will allow us to offer 5,000 mortgages per annum to Nigerians on low income. That is a 100% increase on the number of mortgages that are currently being issued in Nigeria. But yet, we should be clear, it is still a very small drop in the ocean. I think the big thing is around the rental housing fund, which we think addresses that big proportion of the population that Professor Nubi mentioned around Nigerians on low income who really, frankly, by nature of employment and the amount of money they earn, cannot access a mortgage no matter what we do. We are making very initial successes on that, and I think by the end of this month, we'll finance the first set of rental housing units across the country, including, and this is a major interest for us, housing for students. So we're on the verge of starting a loan for a major program of housing for students. But let me end here, because it's not just about building houses. It's also about enabling that those people who live in the houses actually have economic means to continue to pay for the houses that they live. So although, yes, we build houses and is a big part of what we do, our real focus and our engagement with government has been the possibility of housing, helping to create jobs and to strengthen the economy. So what are we doing? I'll just give some big examples. On terms of our current financing program, we reckon that we need about 378,000 doors over the next 18 months. So rather than have a fairly disaggregated approach to these doors, we have a supply chain unit now that is working with bulk manufacturers. So in this case, the Timber Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, and this is just one example. We're looking at the same thing for other building components and doing a bulk deal with them that ensures that Nigerian factories, and I give one example, a gentleman who used to live in London invested in a factory in Ekiti making doors. It's hard to shut down that factory because he's been overwhelmed by Chinese imports of doors. We are reviving him, we're giving him a large forward order through the deal with the timber processors to make doors and therefore begin to create employment in that city, begin to reduce our exposure to import of doors. And the same thing is happening around ironmongeries, door fittings, and things like that. And that is the message that I think is giving us a hearing with government. That is not just about houses, that the investment in housing can actually come back in terms of increased tax revenue because you are getting many people off the streets into tax-paying jobs. I think I'll stop there, Mr. Adebayo, and I don't want to bore you with too much statistics, but I hope that gives you a flavor about what the fund is doing. Thank you. Right, looks like Adebayo is not there. Hello? I think he has left, right. So I don't know if anyone has any questions about the work of the fund. I'm quite happy to take them while we wait for our moderator to get back on his desk.
I think he said after you, the Gambia man will talk.
Thank you, Mr. Femi Adewale.
Okay.
Can you imagine? I went to his myself.
Wrong moment.
Yeah. Yes, that has been a very good report from Mr. Femi Adewale. Those who want to know what Family Home Funds is doing, and you are part of this program as a media, we are available at Fesade Media Group to give you necessary updates. I do not know what the civil executive can do than what Family Home Fund is doing by giving us public accounts from time to time. I think about 3 months ago, I engaged Mr. Femi Adewale to give me account of what he's doing. And I think I've also told him I'm going to visit 2-3 of his sites in some places. So if you are part of us as a media, please, we have gotten what we have, Mr. Femi Adewale have said. We have recorded this meeting for the purpose of whoever may need it, and that was why we extended our hand of partnership to all the media houses. So, Mr. Adewale, thank you so much for what you have, the accounts you have given to us. Now I'm going to Gambia. Mr. Mustafa Ijay. On my way to Gambia, Mr. Mustafa.
Yes, thank you very much, Festus. Stop calling me the Gambian man.
I want you to give us the way forward for Nigeria. You have done business here. You have made enough mark and it's there for everybody to see. Please, from your experience, what Nigeria after 62, and what do you think? What mark will you give to us, and what is the way forward? Especially in the area of supply side, Mr. Femi Adewale mentioned the demand side also. that there are a lot of challenges there. There are no purchasing power. There are no affordability.
Okay, thank you. Again, let me wish my brother Femi happy birthday. I mean, I didn't know it was his birthday today. You look 16. I'm not sure if you're 16, huh? Guys, listen, I mean, obviously, I want to bring some figures here and make some comparisons, and then plus look at a vision. I don't know how many of you do know that I have a vision to deliver 1 million homes, but over the next 20 years. So challenges for me, having been in this industry, my business is now about 32 years old, but I have been involved in construction all my life, which is about almost 40, 45 years or so. So what I've realized in Africa, let's look at first the demand. The demand, when I came to Nigeria in 2012, I was told that the demand, this deficit was 17 million. And that figure never changed. I think we need to have a study where we tell us exactly what the demand is, but what the deficit is. But simple statistics will tell you that over the past 10 years, obviously it must shoot over 20 million now. Because we know the supply, it hasn't been that much. And there's population growth. So I came up with the vision to deliver 1 million homes across sub-Saharan Africa over the next 20 years. Now, if you break that down, one will add, oh, 1 million, that's a lot, because what have you done so far? When we came to Nigeria, as I told you, we delivered over 1,000, and we could have done more. We could have done more. So I'm looking at the challenges, and the challenges mainly for me is access to land. And let's look at where the huge demand is, for example, in Lagos. All of us do know that there's no land in Lagos. So I want to link now, I think policymakers need to look at housing and mass transit. Because there's no way you can meet the housing demand, for people, Lagosians, especially for the targeted group, which is the affordable and the lower bracket. So we must learn from the advanced world. Let's take a good example of Reading and London. By train, it's about less than 30 minutes. So can you imagine the same distance in Nigeria between Lagos and Ogun State, or where there is land available? So government must look at mass transit so that people can live in the suburbs and easily get into the city to work. So I think that's one of the major challenges, not only for Nigeria and Lagos, but also for all the urbanized, the countries that are being urbanized very fast. We all know about mass rural-urban drift, which obviously on urbanization, it's very high in Africa. So in terms of numbers, now after declaring the vision to deliver, which is about 2 years ago, to deliver 1 million homes, we looked at Gambia. Gambia has a land mass of 11,500 square kilometers. Nigeria, we do know that it has about 924,000 square kilometers with a population of 200 million. Gambia has a population of 2.5 million and a land mass of 11,500 square kilometers. Either way, what it works out to be is that Gambia is 1.25% of Nigeria, both in population and also in landmass. But I have successfully launched the development of a new city. So as one developer, I am providing 5,000 homes. 5,000 homes over the next 20 years, which is long term, which most developers don't do and governments don't do. So the supply on that, I am supplying annually 250 homes. Now, some of my friends in Nigeria, I mean, like Benga or Lenians, oh, I know Gambia very well, but who's buying? But we've sold out our targeted 100, now we're selling actually 150% of what we targeted to sell in a year. We have sold 150 units out of our first target of 100. So there's demand. So therefore, if you look at in proportions, if we're building in Gambia 5,000 homes, would I expect that a developer like me in Nigeria, it should be 400,000 homes that I need to build over the next 20 years. Now break that down into yearly, we should deliver 20,000 homes. And we are confident that if one has got all the parameters right, meaning land being allocated, I think there is a demand, and for a certain bracket, there's a huge, people will pay for it. We should have been able to supply, something like between 10,000 to 15,000 homes, because you scale up. If you came to Port Harcourt and you saw how we built our units, we used technology to develop, to build those units. And it was built very fast. Within 3 years, we built about almost 700 apartments, built and delivered. So for me, in summarizing, the solution for housing delivery in Africa, first is to have a long-term vision, because housing delivery is very well politicized. For example, the APC government 7 years ago when they came in, I looked at their manifesto, they said they were going to deliver in their first year 1 million homes, and subsequently another 2 million. We all know that they haven't delivered even a fraction of that. So I think in our own countries, we need to first look at long-term, just like what they do in the advanced world, and look, this is the deficit, that's what we want to supply over this period, then break it down. Again, mass transit, we must invest in mass transit. That's the solution, because there are land available in some places, but with good transport and communication, you can easily get there. The other thing is the development of micro cities and new cities, which is exactly what we are doing in the Gambia. I mean, in the Gambia, I'm sure you, Festus, you do get my postings all the time. But what I did was to move away from the city where everybody was, fighting for land. I moved away 50 kilometers away. Even my own staff were not convinced that we will sell. But we've seen the examples of what happened in Abuja. When Lagos at the time, which is only about 40 years ago, look at Abuja today. Abuja is young, correct me if I'm wrong. So I think states needs to do that, rather than in rivers, everybody just trying to live in Port Harcourt. You need to look at the outskirts, exactly like what they were trying to do with the Greater Port Harcourt project, and then invest a lot on mass housing, good road and rail infrastructure. So I would like to summarize, just stop there, Festus. Unfortunately, I have another commitment, which is in the next 10 minutes. So in the event that anybody wants to ask any question or so, I would be more than willing to respond. But I would beg that at my time, at 10:30, I have another, appointment which was scheduled since last week. Thank you.
Action developer, the man who makes this happen.
Festus, it sounds like you are muted.
I remember the first time I was invited by you to come and see your project in Port Harcourt. I told my team this morning, I said I saw him on the water side. He was putting granite on the water for him to build beautiful houses. And those houses are still there. So we commend you and we appreciate your efforts. Is it that you have left Nigeria or totally in Gambia, or you are still here?
No, I haven't left. I have my team still in Port Harcourt who are finishing up. Actually, last week I was in Lagos. I came to see LSDPC, the Lagos State Property and